Hello, this is Roddric Sims, the business reality coach, and welcome today as you join me for my latest masterclass on what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Typically, as I bring on new clients or I talk to entrepreneurs, they always want to know, Roddric, what can I do on the front end to make me more successful on the back end? And what I've seen through my research and my experience is that having a strong understanding of what entrepreneurship is about at the beginning of your journey will help you be more successful at the end of your journey. And so today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to really talk about what entrepreneurship is about. As I mentioned before, some of my clients call me the business reality coach. And so, what is a coach without a game plan? Well, I have one, and I want to share it with you so you know exactly what we're going to cover over the next 25, 30 minutes together. So, number one, we're looking to help you make a mindset shift today about what it's going to take to be successful as an entrepreneur and the understanding of how you position yourself to be successful as that entrepreneur along this journey. Number two, we're going to really focus on passion and how passion should be used to be able to get you where you want to be as an entrepreneur. And then last but not least, we're going to cover the why, the what, and the when of what an entrepreneurial journey really looks like along the path to success. Now, obviously, this is a subtle workshop masterclass, but it's going to be a little bit interactive. Going to ask you some questions and give you some time to think about them to respond. Throw things in the comment section here if you would definitely like. And if I don't respond immediately, I'll definitely get back and respond to you down the road as well. So please be as interactive as possible as we move forward. And hey, any questions you have, any comments, is only going to benefit everyone else who comes along and participates in this virtual mastermind or virtual mindset workshop. All right, the first thing that I want to touch bases on is what you're going to hear more about down as we talk today is the first E of entrepreneurship. Heads up, there are four E's, so we're going to talk about four major uh, ideas today, but the first one is exposure. So I encourage aspiring entrepreneurs to really become exposed to entrepreneurship before they jump into the deep end, as they say. And even research shows those who've been exposed to entrepreneurship in advance tend to be more successful long term. So, hence the first slide. Entrepreneurship is about exposure. You have to understand the grind before you can shift your mind. And that's what I want to make sure that clients, aspiring entrepreneurs understand is that let's make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. There's an analogy that talks about, hey, if you love sausage, don't go into the kitchen to see how it's made because you're probably no longer like sausage. I'm not going to say entrepreneurship is that bad, but understand there are some challenges to entrepreneurship. And if you go in with a naive mentality, you'll be unpleasantly surprised by some of the outcomes that you're going to have when you go back into the kitchen. Now, how do you get that exposure? And so a lot of exposure comes from different sources, but one of the major things that I've seen is that people who have grown up in entrepreneurship, father, mother, cousin, uncle, friend, relative, and they've seen what entrepreneurship really is about, the conversations at the table about managing people or fluctuating income or how do I get more clients, really seeing what it really takes to be successful provides people a straight solid, straight path and a solid foundation to being a little more successful as an entrepreneur, because they're not really surprised about the outcomes. They've already heard what it's going to take to be successful. And if that family member or friend has been successful, they have someone they can mimic. Might be a different business and a different business model, different industry, but some of the virtues of being a successful entrepreneur are going to be the same regardless of what industry that you're in. So having exposure from family and friends is a significant factor to being successful and being able to really know what entrepreneurship is about. Another method of exposure for entrepreneurs I highly recommend is maybe even getting a mentor that's an entrepreneur to help you really along your journey, but also prior to your journey, so that you can bounce things off of them to see if these things that are taking place, is it just entrepreneurship, or is it you, or is it a combination of both? A mentor can be that sounding board, that level setter, or that person in your community that you just have the opportunity to vent to at different times. The great thing about a mentor is that they also have hopefully been where you're going. And so some of the things that you're going to experience, they can just give you ideas on what to do to save you a bunch of time. They may already have relationships or a network that will allow you to take a shortcut along the path. I personally know of several of my clients who've had mentors in the industries they've gone into, and it saved them 2-3 years of time and tens of thousands of dollars of money because their mentor was able to lead them in the right direction. And it may not have been, hey, making a deal for them. It was just making a connection that they already had from their experience or along their journey as an entrepreneur. So having a mentor that will allow you to get more exposure to entrepreneurship is extremely beneficial. Another way to get exposed to entrepreneurship would be, hey, reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching a TV show. There's so much information out there about entrepreneurship. You can overdose on it. Don't want you to do that. Don't want you to do that now. But there's no reason that you can't get various information along your way about being an entrepreneur. It's just a matter of sitting down and finding the best medium for you that's necessary. Now, if you like to read books, I'm going to talk to you about a book, The 4 E's of Entrepreneurship, that I mentioned earlier. That might be something beneficial for you to read. But again, there are tons of podcasts, there's TV shows, there's, again, so much out there for you to help you along your journey. But before you start on the path, definitely do your due diligence and get exposed to entrepreneurship. And it can be through friends and family, mentor, or all the different media that I mentioned. But hey, there's no excuse not to be exposed to entrepreneurship. And guess what? It's only going to increase your chances of success once you do. All right. Before we jump into the next concept, we're going to take a real quick quiz. Actually, it's only a 1-question quiz. But when you respond to this quiz, I want you to type the response in the comments below. So listen closely. So make sure, I don't want to trick you, but I want to make sure you hear it. So the question is a true or false question. So the true or false question is, true or false, 80% of small business owners obtain loans from banks or venture capital groups to start their business. I'll read it one more time. True or false, 80% of small business owners obtain loans from banks or venture capital groups to start their business. Okay, take a few moments, think that through, throw those comments or the answers in the comments. Great. That should be enough time for you to plug and chug those answers in there. So let's see here. Is this true or is it false? Well, this is actually a false statement. Actually, 80% of small business owners obtain loans from what I call love loans. And these love loans are from loved ones. And so they are either family who, they love you because they have to. Friends, they love you because they love you, hey, for whatever reason that is. And then the last but not least, typically, is yourself. Hopefully you love yourself and you're willing to invest in yourself. But typically 80% of small business owners do not get money from banks. They get it from other investment sources. So to be successful as an entrepreneur, you really have to understand the economics. So entrepreneurship is about economics. You have to be ready, willing, and able to invest in yourself. And so we're going to say ready. How do you get ready to invest in yourself? Well, ready is one, can be your savings account. You have to think, in advance. Hey, I need to start stacking money in case I want to start a business. You should save anyway. So if looking at that savings account, you should be willing to invest your own personal savings into starting your own business. It's the nature of it. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, who else will be? So the first person you have to look at is yourself to start the business. And then, again, looking at friends and family. But what other sources do you have to invest in yourself? Well, retirement accounts can be something that you can invest in as well. Now, sometimes it might be the last resource that some people would say, but because you've been saving for retirement, this money is going to take care of you in your retirement. But hey, if you do your business right, this economically, you run your business properly, this will probably provide you a better retirement than you would have. So it's a great return on your investment to potentially take a loan against your retirement or take money out of your retirement in order to help you start this business. So retirement accounts are definitely an option that you need to consider to invest in yourself. Also, there's loans, credit loans, and that could be, leveraging a credit card that you don't use and taking out and using that credit card to work your cash flow as you start your business. Or, hey, there are home equity lines of credit, borrowing against your home to provide you a line of credit to help you start your business. Again, all these things are things a lot of people would say don't do, but this is what entrepreneurs have to do from an economic standpoint to get their businesses started. Now, I always get pushback and people will say, well, Roger, banks should help small business owners get started. And I say yes, to a certain extent, but understand banks are businesses too. And so they're not their result or their goal is not to go out of business, not to lose money. 50% of small business owners will probably fail within about 5 years. So a lot of business owners and bankers understand that there's a 50% chance that if I give this person money, I won't get it back or the business is going to fail. So you have to prove your concept before you can go to a bank and actually ask for additional investment capital. And how do you prove your concept? You have to be willing to invest in yourself to be able to prove that concept. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, you'll see that the people who come to Shark Tank, they already have a product created or a service created. They've already branded it. They've already had customers. They've already had other investors. They've already used their own money. And now they're coming to the Shark Tank or the sharks to take it to the next level via loan or mentorship or their connections. And so they're not coming with an idea. They're coming with a proven concept. Now, hey, you might hear the stories about venture capitalists. People go to these deals, write stuff on a napkin, and they come back with these million-dollar deals. Well, venture capital is different than who we're talking about now. We're talking about small business owners, and that's who I work with, and that's who I love to work with. So this is a conversation for small business owners. You're not a big startup. Big startups have the potential to generate billions of dollars. Most small business owners, small businesses, that's not the concept. It's not generating billions of dollars. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions. Venture capitalists are in the game to find that unicorn, that big business that's really going to blow up. It's going to really generate a high return on their investment. And so they're not necessarily going to just write a blank check to something that's going to generate $1 million, but they might write a blank check or even write a check for something that's going to generate $1 billion. It's playing at different levels. Just understand what you are, but also understand the economics of your situation. So for a small business owner, to prove your concept, again, you have to understand the economics, meaning you have to be ready, willing, and able to invest in yourself. Once you've done your research and you understand how much it's going to cost to start your business, how long it's going to take for you to break even, and how much it's going to cost you to adjust your lifestyle to be able to maintain while you're growing the business. These are all the economic pieces of the puzzle you have to put in place in order to be successful as an entrepreneur. But fundamentally, you have to be ready, willing, and able to invest in yourself along your entrepreneurial journey. All right, we've made it to the third E of entrepreneurship. Remember, there are four of them, so this is the third one. And with this E, it's really a focus on a concept that I discussed earlier, which was proof of concept. And so this is really about the environment. So you have to study the environment where you're going to be an entrepreneur, or the industry, or the competition, all those things that go into it. But in reality, entrepreneurship is about the environment. As you see there, you have to make sure somebody wants what you have. Okay, great. So what does that mean, Roddric? Well, do people really want what you have? Do they really need what you're selling? And first is there a need, then really is there a want? And the want tends to be a lot of times the more important piece of being an entrepreneur, because people necessarily tend to buy what they want versus a lot of times what they need, unless they really, really have to, or if it's mandated, i.e. car insurance. But there needs to be clarification that people really want it. And how do you do that? Well, you have to do your research in advance. Well, let's say you're going to sell, hamburgers. And if you see there are 10 burger shops, on the strip or in your area, well, people buy hamburgers because, 10 places are selling it. So other people have proved that concept for you already, that people want what you have. Now, going back to that concept of it being proven, hey, but also you have the environment. If there are 10 burger shops out there in that community, hey, what are you going to be doing differently to be able to compete with those individuals? So once you do identify that there's a need or a want for what you have, now you have to obviously understand that there's competition. So you have to understand what the environment of the competition are. For instance, hey, if you want to create a burger and sell it for $10, and the person down the street is selling their burgers for $2, well, it may be a little bit of a challenge unless you're doing something extra special with your business model to make your burgers worth $10. Are they bigger? Is there a better experience? Is it a different type of environment? Are you selling different burgers that you can't, or ingredients you can't get somewhere else? So what does the competition look like in the environment where you plan to launch your business? Be it the industry, the location, or just the environment, again, of your business model. Then on top of that, as you're evaluating the environment, at the end of the day, can you make a living off of the environment where you plan to have your product or service? There are different levels of entrepreneurship. Some people want to create a business that they completely sustain their livelihood off of. Others may want to create a business where they just need extra money to go on vacation. Neither here nor there, not buying or selling either, but you have to really understand which one that you want to achieve to make sure that the environment you're going into as an entrepreneur is going to support you to make that living that you want to have as this entrepreneur in this space. So again, you want to make sure that the environment is ready. People want what you have. You understand the competition, and will this environment allow you to generate the revenue or income that you want to be able to live the lifestyle that you want based on the effort and energy you're going to put into this business. All right, we have reached the 4E of entrepreneurship, which you can see right here is execution. And so before I give you my opinion on, which I feel is probably the most important E of entrepreneurship, I want to have another one of those interactive questions. And so now this question is not either true, false, it's just give me your personal opinion. So it can't be right or wrong. So I want to preface it before I give you the question. But here's the question. Would you rather have an A idea and C execution, or a C idea and A execution? Now, I'm going to read that to you one more time. I want you to think about it, but this time when I read it to you, think about it, and then I want you to put in the comments either AC or CA. So I'll read it back to you. Would you rather have an A idea and C execution, which would be AC, or a C idea and A execution, which would be CA? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it and then drop it in the comments for me. All right, great to see people dropping those responses in the comment section. But with that activity done, let me give you my opinion on why execution is so important. I mean, as I mentioned before, there's no right or wrong to this question asked, just basically how you feel and what direction you want to go along your entrepreneurial journey. But for me, execution is the deal breaker out of all of the 4 E's of entrepreneurship. So as you see here, entrepreneurship is about execution per the graphic. You always have to be ready to put in the work. You do as an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, this is what makes, I guess, the wheels turn. This is what's going to make and break any entrepreneurial endeavor or any business that you create. I say execution as the last E in discussions because I really feel it's the most important one. If you look at the things that we've identified already, number one being the first E of entrepreneurship, which is exposure, being exposed to entrepreneurship. Number two being understanding economics and being in the right position to take advantage of opportunities economically. And then the third one, which is going to be the environment, understanding the environment you're going into, the competition, and is there really a need for what you have? But that's really theory. All those things are research and theory. Execution is so important because this is really the practical phase of it. This is where the rubber meets the road. You can do all the research you want, but if you don't apply it at an above average level, it's not really, going to matter. Because my opinion is you can have the best idea ever, but if you never execute it, it doesn't matter. And so, we'll go into even discussing, hey, there are no unique ideas. This is one of the things I share with my clients. There are really no unique ideas. There's just a unique execution. There are 1 billion people in the world. And so for you to think that you were the the only person with an idea at this point is very naive. I think we've all had the experience of watching something or having an idea, and then 2 or 3 years later, we see it on TV and we're like, I had that idea, right? Hey, people have it. The difference is that another person executed on it at a high level and actually got it to market and actually made it practical and made it real, bring it brought to reality. And so now it's actually out there. You could have done the same thing, but you didn't execute. That's what happens. That's the reality behind it. So there are no unique ideas in reality. It's just unique execution. So the most important E for me out of the 4 E's of entrepreneurship is truly this execution piece, because you have to make it happen at the end of the day. Now, there are a lot of different things with this whole execution piece um, of, what I call paralysis by analysis. People want to do a whole lot of research and never execute. So my push with that is really the model of, there's a book called The Lean Startup, if you want to learn more about it, where it's about the minimum viable product, getting something out there. So the 80-20% rule is what I would say. Getting something completed up to 80% and then rolling it out and then getting it fixed while it's out there. I definitely agree with that because, one, paralysis by analysis, if you wait for something to be perfect, you'll never get it out there, in my opinion. You want to get it up to snuff where it's good enough. And then you start tweaking and making it better or innovating once you get it out to the market and your customers or clients tell you what they really want from you. So getting something up, again, I don't, say, if you're building a rocket ship, your rocket ship has to work 100% because if not, it's going to be a bad look. But hey, if you're building a burger, like we talked about before, and you want to use a different type of bun, than somebody else, then you can experiment with the bun. It doesn't have to be perfect, or you don't have the bun you want. You can use another bun until you get the bun you want. Or hey, that bun that you use may be better than the one you would have wanted anyway. You get better feedback. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to get to a point where you get away from paralysis by analysis and actually do something. So don't get stuck in that scenario. Execution is important. You can't get stuck just planning and not doing. The next thing is people want to rush to market or say, hey, if I'm not the first to market, then there's no reason for me to do it. That's wrong as well. Execution sometimes better to be the second or third to market to see what the other people have done, see what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then innovate on what that other company is doing. That's how all these burger joints get out here. They didn't necessarily create a burger. They just looked the way the burger was done and did it a different way, a different size, a different makeup, a different style. So it's not a unique idea. They've just innovated on something else that was out there. So they weren't first to market, but they're still being viable. And in some cases, it's even better being the second and third to market because you're able to innovate and learn the lessons and see what people really want. And you allow somebody else to prove your concept that we discussed before when we talked about the environment and the competition. So again, reinforcing again, entrepreneurship is about execution, and you definitely have to be focused on making it happen as you build your business. Because if you do all this research and don't execute on it, hey, it's not, you've wasted your time. So you got to execute to be successful as an entrepreneur. Now, if I've changed, or if you've changed your thought process on what's more important to you, having an A idea and a C execution, or having a C idea and A execution, feel free to go back and change your answer in the comments. No harm, no foul. Again, you're not getting graded on this, but I just want to see, what the thought process is. And, because again, you have to execute to be successful as an entrepreneur. Now that we've covered the 4 E's of entrepreneurship and you have a general idea of what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur along that entrepreneurial journey, I want to talk a little bit more about just overall general philosophy of what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur in these last few minutes we have together. And so, as you'll see here, I have an agree or disagree question for you now. And this is from somebody that people figure is one of the wisest people ever, from Confucius. And he says, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. Okay? You know the drill. Go ahead and drop your response in the comment sections if you agree. So just drop agree or disagree. All right, should have been able to do that by now. So I will tell you my opinion, and I disagree with this statement because um, if you choose something you love to do, a lot of times people are passionate about, and this is where we have that conversation. Do you create a job you're passionate about? And if you create a job that you're passionate about, yeah, but sometimes that passion turns into a job, and people tend not to love that passion any longer. And so what needs to take place is as you're making a decision on what business that you are creating, you want to align it with your passion versus creating a job in your passion. And so what does that mean? Well, hey, if you want to build a business you're passionate about, then that means, hey, if you're a baker, if you love baking, you're going to build a bakery. That means you built a business that you're passionate about. But that becomes your passion, becomes a job. That's a decision you have to make. The second opportunity is, hey, you can build a business that allows you to live your passions. So if you love to travel, then maybe you create a travel agency. So now you get to go travel to the places that you recommend to your clients. So at the same time, you get paid to travel. Not a bad deal. So that's building a business that allows you to live your passions. And then last is really about you building a business that allows you to support your passions. So for instance, if you just want to support your passions, then you can create a widget store. In that widget store, you can sell whatever, how much you want, and then donate money to a cause that supports what you're passionate about. So you're just making the money, and then you're able to support the endeavors because you can be a investor or a patron of your cause. So you make the money and then you give it to others who are going to support the cause. So you can finance it that way. So there are different ways to, you know, focus your passions as being an entrepreneur, but foundationally you have to understand fundamentally, how do you want your passions to be ingrained in your business? So just having a job in your passions may not end up being the result that you want to have. So you just heard and understand that entrepreneurship is also about passion and aligning your passions with the business opportunity that you start, which obviously is important long term. But entrepreneurship is also about business planning. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody that's been successful started a business had a business plan. That's a whole different conversation. But here's a fact that's true, not even debatable. Research shows that 80% of businesses that fail never had a business plan. Now, understand that 20% of businesses that did fail did have a business plan. So having a business plan doesn't guarantee it, but it increases your chance of success. Would you rather have an 80% that you're going to fail because you don't have a business plan, or a 20% chance you're going to fail because you do? I think having a 20% chance that you're going to fail is a whole lot better than having an 80% chance. So when you're talking about business planning, again, we talked about paralysis by analysis, not the expectation you got a full-blown business plan that's 40 pages, but something just where you've actually identified your ideas. And the major things that in this business planning that you have to identify to be successful as an entrepreneur is one, why? Why are you going into business? Which pretty much includes your vision and mission. Why are you doing this? Is it about the money? Is it about the time? Is it about the lifestyle? Is it about your passion? There has to be a reason that you're doing this. You have to understand that, and you have to integrate that mission and vision into everything you do within the business. So the why is definitely important. The second thing you have to do on this basic business planning is the what. What are you going to sell? What product? What service? You have to be able to tell people, show people, and you have to have an idea of what you're actually going to do. So you know why you're going to do it. Now, what are you doing? And how are you going to do it? And then last is the when. You need to set a date to actually launch that business. Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it a year and a half? Is it 2 years? Doesn't matter to me at this point. I have a recommendation, but you can always call me and connect. We can have a discovery call about that. But it's really more about putting the date down so you have something to shoot towards in your business. You have to have a goal in place. You have to have a why. You have to know what you're going to be selling and what business you're going to have. And you have to know when you're going to be doing it from a target. So now you can start putting together a plan to hit that goal. So, do you need a full-blown business plan? No. Do you have to do business planning? Yes. And that business planning includes the why, the what, and the when at the minimum. Guess what? We've concluded the masterclass on what entrepreneurship is about. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen in and learn about my philosophy and theories on entrepreneurship as the business reality coach. Before we wrap up, I did mention to you earlier that I have a resource for you, and which focuses on the 4 E's of entrepreneurship that I mentioned. And here it is, my book, The 4 E's of Entrepreneurship, that I wrote a couple years ago. But it's definitely a foundational piece for anyone that's an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to be exposed to a lot of knowledge about what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur. There are about 35 coaching sessions wrapped up in the book. So if you want to coach yourself, then the 4 E's of entrepreneurship will do that for you. I'm going to attach a link that you can use to buy it on Amazon if you want to make a purchase now directly. Or if you want your own signed copy directly from the business reality coach himself, Roddric W, then you can reach out to me also via email, and I can get you shipped a signed copy of the 4 E's of Entrepreneurship. Again, thank you for participating in today's masterclass on what entrepreneurship is about. And I wanted to also provide you my contact information if you want to follow up with me regarding any of the comments that I've made today, or you want any more details on any information I provided, or if you want to reach out to me to connect about setting up a coaching session or discovery call, or getting your own copy of the 4 E's of Entrepreneurship, my contact information is listed here. I'd love to hear from you via email or on either of my social media platforms, as my goal is to continue to educate entrepreneurs and provide them the reality of what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur. So, with that being said, I want to wrap up today and thank you for attending and participating in today's masterclass. And I'll leave it off by saying, hey, ready, set, let's launch a successful business.